Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I will now call this council meeting to order on April 16th, 2025 at 5 p.m. We will start with the territorial acknowledgement. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge with respect the history and living culture of the Anishinaabe, the people of the Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi Nation, who have inhabited this land from time immemorial. We recognize that these lands are the territories of the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, collectively known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the keepers of this land. Georgian Bluffs is located on lands encompassed by treaties 45.5, 67, 72, 82, and 93. We reflect on our role as treaty people and the need to live in respect and peace and show respect to the First Peoples who inhabit these lands and waters. And moving forward with adoption of the agenda, are there any urgent additions to the agenda this evening? Seeing none, the recommendation is that the agenda be approved as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor Winters, is there any discussion? Call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Does any member wish to declare a pecuniary interest this evening? Seeing none, you may declare at any time if one should arise. Minutes of previous meetings, the recommendation is that the minutes contained herein be approved. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Coburn, Councillor Scholdice, is there any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Announcements. Does any member wish to make an announcement this evening? Seeing none, we have no public hearings and no public participation this evening. Just for the public's information, though, if you do wish to delegate or appear before council regarding an item on the agenda or off the agenda, you must register with the clerk's office. To register, you can complete the online delegation form at www.georgianbluffs.ca/delegations. Call the clerk's office at 519-376-2729, extension 601, or register in council chambers with the clerk prior to the meeting start time of 5 p.m. So moving on to consent agenda. Does any member wish to pull items from the consent agenda? Councillor Coburn.
Thank you, Mayor Carlton. If I may, I would pull 9.1.5 as well as 9.3.14.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Scholdice.
I'll pull 9.1.4.
Anyone else? Okay. So the recommendation is that Council of the Township of Georgian Bluffs adopt the consent agenda for information as circulated, less items 9.1.4, 9.1.5, and 9.3.14. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Winters, Councillor Dooley. Is there any discussion? I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. I'm going to go in order here, Councillor Coburn, I think, just to keep it going. So I'll start with Councillor Scholdice on 9.1.4.
Thank you. So when I was reading this, I couldn't help but think, I in the future would love to see a Kemble playground. I think that's a small ask. What they're asking is a small ask. I believe that in the past, there have been instances where we have waived fees for people. And so I would like to support these folks and say, yep, I'm all in for a Kemble playground. And if there's something that we can do to help facilitate that, as well as giving them access at spaces and waiving their fees, no problem. I'd be in support of that, for sure.
Thank you. Councillor Winters.
I would certainly second that. I mean, when I read that, I mean, they're raising money for township facilities, and to not allow them to request a fee waiver would be, I think, improper on our behalf.
Any other comments on that one? I think what I would add to that is what they're looking for is to build a structure for youth in the community. So for that reason, I think it's valid. So Councillor Scholdice, you will move that. Councillor Winters, you're seconding. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. 9.1.5, Councillor Coburn.
I just wanted to draw this letter to everyone's attention. We often hear complaints and we don't often get letters in support of or appreciation. And this letter in particular is from a couple in our community wanting to let us all know that they thought our township staff did an excellent job in responding to keeping our roads open and maintained over a very challenging winter season. So I just wanted to add my thanks to staff for that effort and to highlight that for everyone who might be listening.
Thank you. Councillor Day.
I was going to pull this one for the same reason and just wanted to add to Councillor Coburn's very appropriate wording that I really appreciate both the roads being kept open as well as the wellness checks that were done during the height of the ice storm. That was a really thoughtful inclusion of services.
Thank you. And I was fortunate enough to run into Anne Schneider on Saturday morning at the Kimball Tour and thanked her for sending that letter because staff don't always hear the good side, the appreciation. So I had also thanked her for sending that letter of appreciation. There's no other comments on that one. We will move on then, Councillor Coburn, to 9.3.14.
Thank you. This is an interesting one. I would like to support most of what the city of Peterborough is recommending here. This is the use of X, formerly known as Twitter. This is a media platform that doesn't respond adequately to hate speech and misinformation. I believe that their philosophies are not consistent with ours when it comes to inclusivity and diversity and non-discrimination. While other municipalities are backing away from the use of Twitter, I would like to see us do that as well. But I should have started by asking if we even use X in our communications platforms. And if so, would council support us ceasing that?
Thank you for those comments. And I'll turn to Haley, who is here with us this evening, and ask her that question.
Absolutely happy to help. I would say compared to all of our social media accounts, it has our lowest number of followers, our lowest level of engagement. We see much more activity on our alternate accounts, being Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. So I think if we were to move away from using that particular platform, the impacts to the public would be minimal.
Thank you. Did you hear that, Councillor Coburn?
I think I heard most of it. I just didn't hear the first few words, but I think I got the message and that we do use it, but it's probably not that impactful. So given what the platform seems to represent these days, I would move that we cease to use that as a method of communication within our municipality.
Okay, thank you. So you're making that motion. Could I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Pringle? Mm-hmm. Any further discussion or comments here? Going to look to council first. Councillor Day.
Just to note one point that the city of Peterborough discontinued the use of X, formerly known as Twitter, except for fire services and other emergency information as necessary. So in that urgent circumstance, getting information out might precede other factors. But that's in the documentation in here. So otherwise, I'm supportive.
Okay. Haley, do you have any comments on that, on how, so the section that Councillor Day is referring to says that the city of Peterborough discontinued the use of X, formerly known as Twitter, except for Peterborough Transit, fire services, and emergency information as necessary. Would we still use it in an emergency situation, or do we want to rewrite this, what we're supporting, to reflect Georgian Bluffs?
Certainly could use it in an emergency situation. Our fire department and other emergency service providers do have their own separate accounts that aren't managed by us at the township. So if ours was deactivated, those would continue to exist if those organizations did continue to use them. However, I do appreciate the concerns that in the case of an emergency, you really want to use every tool at your disposal. So that could be a caveat that we might want.
Okay. Councillor Coburn, do you want to respond to that and how we would be affected in using it for emergency notifications?
I would, Mayor Carlton, but unfortunately, the microphone that is transmitting our communications, a person is not coming through with the sound. So I have no idea what she just said. If it's important to our emergency services to maintain that, I think that's fine. My preference would be if it's not needed and it's not a useful tool, then even in emergency situations, my preference would be to do away with that.
So I think what Haley was commenting was that the fire services have their own separate account from ours that they monitor. So what we're deciding here might not be changing what they are doing. Councillor Day?
I was essentially going to say the same thing to summarize communication person Haley a little bit, as well as to support knowing that the fire services are using that method of communication, then my concern is mitigated.
Councillor Coburn?
Yeah, I don't think we can make a decision for the fire department because that would be a decision, I believe, made by the board. So I think my motion is just in regards to municipal use of that platform.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just going to turn to the clerk for what our motion is going to read. We're supporting, in principle, what Peterborough is doing, but a lot of theirs refers to the city of Peterborough. So how do we change that? CAO.
So through you, Mayor Carlton, you might have just hit the nail on the head. I think, if I'm understanding Councillor Coburn correctly, I think Councillor Coburn has put a recommendation on the floor, which is not to say anything about this, but it's actually a direction for us to cease using Twitter and doesn't actually require any response in regard to the city of Peterborough. I apologise if I've misunderstood you, Councillor Coburn.
Go ahead.
No, you haven't at all. Thank you, CAO. I just wonder if there's any value in a resolution that goes out to others, including AMO, because it does make a statement, and whether that's impactful on a bigger level in terms of how we feel about diversity, equity, inclusion, and non-discrimination. I guess that's up for discussion. I don't want to pile more work onto our clerk, but I like the idea of directing staff in the way that we have with this motion. I also like the idea of a resolution that goes out to a wider audience.
Okay, thank you for that. So I'm going to turn to the clerk again to see what you need from us this evening.
Through you. So I have drafted something just very high level, just as a jumping off point. That Town Council of the Township of Georgian Bluffs hereby supports the resolution adopted by the City of Peterborough to discontinue use of the social media platform known as X, and that the Township of Georgian Bluffs hereby directs staff to discontinue the use of X, formerly known as Twitter, except for the purpose of communicating emergency information as necessary, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to all Ontario municipalities and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario.
Thank you. Okay, I see Councillor Coburn is good with that. Deputy Mayor Pringle?
Good.
Seconded? Okay. There's no further discussion. I will call the vote then. All in favor? Opposed? That still carries. And moving on then, we're on to reports, committee reports. Sorry.
We need to, through you, Mayor Carlton, we need to receive item 9.1.5 for information.
Right, my apologies. Okay, so we need a motion to receive 9.1.5. Councillor Coburn, you pulled that. Do you want to move that one to receive it? The letter from Ann and Clark Schneider. We have to receive it for information because we pulled it from the consent agenda.
Oh, sure, absolutely, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
Could I have a seconder? Councillor Day? And if there's no further discussion, I will call the vote. All in favor. That is carried. Okay, now we are on to committee reports. So recommendation is that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held on April 9th, 2025 be adopted including recommendations COW 2025-021 to COW 2025-025, and that all actions contained therein be approved. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Coburn, Councillor Winters. Is there any further discussion on any of that? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Information reports, 11.2. The recommendation is that the information reports contained herein be received, and that is the small craft lease agreements. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Winters, Deputy Mayor Pringle, is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Recommendation reports. The recommendation is that staff report DEV 2025-028, award of contract for 2025-02 sidewalk replacement program be received, and that a contract with bidder P&G Landscaping and Snow Removal Incorporated for tender 2025-02 in the amount of $91,955, excluding HST, be awarded. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Schuldeis, Councillor Coburn. Is anyone speaking to this one, or we're just moving forward with it?
We did early on talk about having reports that came from council spoke to, right?
Yes.
I can speak to that too.
Okay. Where do you, Kevin?
Through the mayor and to members of council, thanks for having me this evening. Just first, Councillor Corbett, can you hear me? There's no speakers. Okay, good. Yeah, so present to you the report development 2025-28 with recommendation to proceed with award P&G Landscaping Snow Removal for sidewalk reconstruction in the community of Shallow Lake. This is the second year of our sidewalk replacement program. And this year we were looking at replacing approximately 500 meters of poor condition sidewalks that are cracked, heaved, and do not meet current standards of today. For example, accessibility standards and OPS standards. So township staff tendered in approximately February 6th, and it closed on March the 5th. 37 registered bidders, plan takers took out bid packages, and 16 bids were received. The summary of the bids are found in Table 1. It was a quite competitive bid, and the lowest bid came in from P&G Landscaping and Snow Removal at $91,955. So below our budget of $100,000, and that was approved in 2025 for the budget. So with council's consideration, next steps, if council considers approving the award, township will reach it back out to P&G and get a schedule for when this approximate start date of the reconstruction of the sidewalks to begin.
Thank you. Any questions from any members of council?
Just want to thank you through your Mayor Carlton. It's great to see that many bidders. It's good to see that. It's very competitive numbers and everything else. I've never heard the name P&G Landscape Services before. So when I see their name that they talk about landscape and snow removal, I assume this isn't their first sidewalk project, that they've done other equivalent projects in the past?
That's correct, yes.
I would comment that the sidewalks that were done last year, I received some very positive comments from residents of Shallow Lake who appreciated having nicer sidewalks to use. So they will appreciate this as well. Are there any further comments from council? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Next item is the award of contract for 2025 surface treatment preservation program. The recommendation that council award request for tender 2025-03 surface treatment preservation program to Duncor Enterprises Incorporated in the amount of $1,155,277.91, excluding HST, and that council direct staff to enter into discussions to identify opportunities for additional road sections and be authorized to negotiate directly with Duncor Enterprises Incorporated as per report DEV 2025-029 to be included in the 2025 Surface Treatment Preservation Program to an upset limit to not exceed 1.5 million, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the contract for services. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councilor Winters, Deputy Mayor Pringle. And we're back to you again on this one, Kevin.
Through you, Mayor, to members of council. So as you may recall, during the initial budget deliberations in late 2024 and early 2025, staff presented to council a few considerations of road sections. At that time, council debated a approximate budget as to for surface treatment. In November 20th, council passed the resolution for 2024-240 that $1.5 million hard top surface preservation program budget be used for surface treated roads, replacing the hot mix work proposed in the 2025 budget request, and with as many kilometers of surface treated road sections as possible in 2025. Staff took that resolution and developed a estimated budget as per many kilometer roads as possible to be surface treated. With this tender, there was other technologies considered such as microsurfacing. The microsurfacing will be used in our urban areas east of town where the old town limits are. So that was included in the tender, and what staff took with the initial budget, they thought that it was a well-rounded estimate to get us close to the $1.5 million resolution that council wanted to budget resolution. Staff did tender the road sections as provided in the report. Nearly 25 kilometers of road section was included in the initial tender, including microsurfacing. So staff did tender on February 20th and closed approximately on March 19th. Three companies, 3 bids were received, and Duncor was the lowest bid, and approximately $1,155,277.91. Within the 3 bids, Miller Paving was pretty competitive. Staff do feel that this was a competitive bid and it's fair value. With that being said, again, staff took their initial estimates, provided in the tender, hoping to get close to the $1.5 million mark. As you can see, we are under budget, and staff are asking with council's permission to enter into discussions for opportunities to include additional road sections identified by staff. Some of those road sections will be mainly in the Derby area. As you will note in the report, concession 7, concession 11, and concession 3 would be the considerations to enter into talks with Duncor and see how close we can get to that 1.5 million without exceeding it. Council so chooses to proceed in that option.
Thank you, Kevin. Comments from council?
Yeah, I don't have to start.
You can. Go ahead, Councilor Winters.
It's a great report, Kevin. Thank you for that. And we were down at Good Roads there, and asphalt preservation was a big topic, and this is what they really want to see you do, right? Seal the surfaces up, do as much as you can do with the money that's available. Totally support this 100%. Duncor has been an excellent company over the years. The only, I would say, question, suggestion, pulverizing of concession 3, if the township pulls out the pulverization and uses the maintenance gravel portion of their budget, you can make that go a lot farther as well. So, instead of having Duncor look after the whole contract, the municipality can do the pulverization as a small tender. That's a small portion. You've already got your budget for maintenance gravel. So you put your maintenance gravel down for your 2 inches of shaping on this. You can probably do some more roads as well. I think you can play with the numbers there and actually be quite successful, would be my recommendation. And it's a very tough decision in your shoes because there's lots of roads that need attention. Where do you start? Where do you stop? So I think it's a great report. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, Mark Earl. Yeah, no, it is a good report, and it is nice to see that we're actually getting ahead of the games as opposed to always chasing the ball around. So, yeah, there's lots of roads need work, but it's nice to see we can add a little more to it and get something else done. So, I travel concession 3 every day, and if we wait another year, I'm not sure how much road will be left. So, anyway, it's good to see that one on the list at least. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for the report, Kevin. Next item is award of contract engineering, or the contract for engineering services for culvert replacements. The recommendation is that council receive staff report DEV 2025-030, award of contract for engineering services for culvert replacements, and that a contract with firm of Pearson Engineering Limited in the amount of $185,970 excluding HST be awarded, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute a contract for services. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Day, Councillor Winters, and who is speaking to this one? Kevin again? Okay.
And thank you, and through the mayor, to members of council. So in 2024, Pearson Engineering completed the Ontario Structural Inspection Manual on various structures throughout the township, including Big Bay Culvert and Campbell Culvert at the intersection of Campbell Rock Road and Concession 20. Pearson Engineering's initial inspections found that these culverts were severely failed, especially on the Big Bay side road. Pearson gave a recommendation that the culvert on Big Bay side road had to be immediately replaced, and as well as the culverts on Campbell Rock Road. Therefore, staff presented in 2025 a budget for replacements and engineering for those culverts. Staff proceeded with a request for proposal to seek a consultant for the engineering background work for the replacements of the culverts. Within the RFP, staff provided a strict timeline that the Campbell Rock Road is to be replaced in 2024. Engineering to be completed early in 2024 to proceed into construction in 2024, and engineering for Campbell Rock Road to proceed in 2024 with construction, 2024, I mean 2025.
We assume
So, yes. So Campbell Rock Road engineering will be completed in 2025 with construction in 2026. And Campbell Rock Road is a little bit more complex as the culverts cross under a main intersection, and staff do anticipate that there will be detours and service disruptions to the surrounding residents. So in our request for proposal was released on February 19th with a closing date of March 25th. Staff shortly analyzed the technical submissions and came together as a review committee to grade the technical submissions. 17 proponents registered as a plan taker, and 5 bids were submitted by GSS Engineering, WT Infrastructure Solutions, Greer Galloway, and PlanMac, and Pearson Engineering. A technical proposal committee consisted of town staff came together on April 4th and scored the technical proposals. Each proponent had to have a score of 70% in order to proceed into their financial submission. All 5 proponents succeeded in scoring a minimum score of 70%, in which we proceeded to opening their financial proposals. I must admit, this is the first time that this has ever happened to me in my municipal career, and I'm sure quite a few in this room, is that we actually came to a tie between GSS Engineering and Pearson Engineering with a score of 79.20. as per our RFP documents and the amended purchasing bylaw, in order to break a tie, a coin flip was decided to happen. So the coin flip was administered by staff in the administration building on Monday, April 7th. Proponent A was Pearson Engineering, proponent B was GSS Engineering, and by way of the coin toss, proponent A was the successful proponent. In table 1, you will note that the prices include Pearson Engineering wasn't the lowest price submitted, but it did score the highest technical score. GSS Engineering had the lowest price of the proponents and scored third on their technical score. So again, by way of coin toss, staff are recommending to proceed with a contract for engineering of the culvert replacements for Campbell culverts and Big Bag culverts by Pearson Engineering.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council?
I mean, through you, again, Mayor Carlton, through Kevin, it's great. One of the questions I have, I mean, $165,000 is a lot of money for engineering. I assume that's engineering, contract administration, contract supervision. It's a complete package. I mean, most of these are likely to be like for like replacements. And again, there'd be approvals, environmental approvals, and it'll cause you some timing windows, right? That are fairly important.
Through the mayor to Councillor Winters, that is correct. This includes the pre-engineering, detailed design, tender administration, contract administration, warranty administration. Included in the request for proposal for a proponent and consultant is to consider alternative options, either like for like or concrete blocks culverts, for example. Those options will be explored by the consultant and what is best suited for the replacements. As of right now, though, we are proceeding with the like for like replacement, and also includes permitting of GSCA, Department of Fisheries, if there's any DFO, biologists, background studies, tabletop studies for archaeological heritage replacements. The municipal class environmental assessments do consider this as exempt or Schedule A. Therefore, we do not have to file with the ministry. We can proceed to exemption and go straight into the complex essentially.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? Right. Thank you. That is carried. And thank you, Kevin, for those reports. Moving on to bylaws. We have no zoning bylaws, but for other bylaws, the updated procurement policy. Recommendation is that bylaw 2025-022, being a bylaw to adopt a policy respecting the procurement of goods and services for the corporation of the Township of Georgian Bluffs, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Coburn, Deputy Mayor Pringle. Is there any discussion on that one? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Next one being the lease agreement for Big Bay and White Cloud Island. The recommendation is that bylaw 2025-023, being a bylaw to authorize a lease agreement with His Majesty the King as represented by the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans for lands at Big Bay and White Cloud Island, be read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Coburn, Councillor Winters, is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Next item is the birthing license agreement with the Griffith Island Club. Recommendation that bylaw 2025-024, being a bylaw to authorize a birthing license agreement with the Griffith Island Club, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor Scholdice. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Next item is speed limits on concession 24 in Zion Church Road. The recommendation is that bylaw 2025-025, being a bylaw to reduce the speed limits on concession 24 in Zion Church Road to 60 kilometers per hour, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Winters, Councillor Day. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Next item is open air burning. Recommendation is that bylaw 2025-026, being a bylaw to regulate open air burning in the township of Georgian Bluffs, be read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor Day. Any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. We have no unfinished business, new business. Gravel road maintenance. Further to notice of discussion provided by Councillor Rick Winters at the April 9th Committee of the Whole meeting. Councillor Winters.
Thank you. And again, I just want to have this discussion about it. My opinion is what I've seen, what the public, I think's expectations are. I think our staff do a great job, but I do think over the years, I've seen our gravel maintenance has maybe not been to the level of service that it should be. I think, and it's my own opinion, and from the feedback I'm getting is most of our gravel maintenance seems to be, well, we'll get to it when we get to it. We're out doing other things. And if we don't have our roads properly graded and prepped and shaped by Thanksgiving, and we stay on it from Thanksgiving to the wet weather, then we fight it behind the 8 ball all winter long. And one of the things I find, and no disrespect to anybody, is we use the weather a lot as an excuse. It's a part of it. There are 3 parts to gravel road maintenance, right? There's the actual gravel itself, there's the shaping, the preparation, the maintenance, and weather is also a factor. But I just, we're getting those emails recently, I mean, weather was a portion of the factor. It's a third of what's going out there. But when you get out and see, and then the fall, after Thanksgiving, graders never stop. They shouldn't stop. That is the crucial time to grade the road, shape the road, keep it prepared so the water runs off. Once the frost sets in, you're at the mercy of the winter. Then that becomes an excuse, but it's not the proper excuse, right? So that's all I want to say is I think our guys do a great job. But I think as a council, hopefully we can give a little bit more emphasis on, we need to pay more attention to our gravel roads in the fall and not just we'll get there when we get there. Oh, it rained today, so we're not going to do it. It is a fine line, and you've got to be able to react quickly to deal with the moisture content, the weather conditions of a gravel road. But, I did see it last year, use Hyman Side Road as an example. I actually stopped traveling it at one point in time. We didn't grade the whole road. We spot graded the road. And I was available, and I was not available. I was involved in purchasing a glass grader, and it has a slope control on it. So you set the slope of the road, you set whichever end of the moldboard you want to use, and you only pay attention to one, and that 2% stays consistent. And Hyman Side Road was not consistent at any one time last year. And if water lays on the side of the gravel roads, then the moisture infiltrates the road and we're fighting the 8 ball. So it's just things that I wanted to bring up. We do it to our residents to have this conversation so they know that we and staff have had this conversation. We do a great job. I think we've put more money into the roads for gravel, but it's just making everybody cognizant of what I want to see. It's not to throw anybody under the bus, but I hope we spend a bit more time and a bit more focus on that.
Any other comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's great comments there too. And I think on behalf of the staff side of things, I want to believe the guys we have running the graders now are getting more experience, a little better every year, right? And I know it's tough to find a grader guy, period, that knows how to grade properly and do that piece. And yeah, if we bought a grader that has the tools, then we should obviously be using them tools to their full advantage, right? So yeah, no, and I'm really hoping that the guys that are on the graders now enjoy it and want to stay at it. And as over time things will get better. I do believe we are going to throw a little extra gravel on some roads this year, which is obviously a bonus. And yeah, to get to away, if we can get away a spring without the complaints that we get on our gravel roads, that would be something for sure. So yeah, good job again, good job overall. So just my 2 cents.
Thank you. Councillor Day.
I just wanted to echo the experience of hearing from residents and the understandable concerns about the state of gravel roads, especially after this particular winter. I did want to note that on the maple syrup tour day, the roads to the farms were in great shape compared to the week previous, and that was appreciated, getting things to a better state right before that big event. And I also wanted to give the staff a chance to see if there was an update you'd like to give us about gravel road maintenance at all, just to help us all understand the scheduling for road priorities.
Yes, so through you, Mayor Carlton, Jerry and I did connect. Jerry was unavailable to attend this evening, unfortunately, had a prior commitment, but we did connect before this. The grading season is almost starting. It keeps on teasing us and then backing off a little bit, but we have been out. We have started the spring grading. So it did start last week, and we're anticipating next week getting into it in earnest. As Councillor Winter says, grading is made up of several different practices, which start with pre-season grading, to try and remove the potholes that have occurred through the spring season, re-establishing the shape of the road, and then dealing with maintenance gravel later on this year. And Council has directed, and it is included in the budget, to have more maintenance gravel this year. So I'm hoping to do a larger length of road, linear kilometre of road, with maintenance gravel this year. That's followed up then with the dust suppression contract to help bind the surface through the summer, and then we move into fall grading. And we tend to go as late as we can. We do usually take one of the graders out to get it prepped for winter, while we keep one still prepped for grading work to run it as late as we can. But I can certainly relay Councillor Winter's points on about trying to push our grading as far into the fall season as possible to maintain that shape. One of the things we do note is during this spring, we do try to build the crown up on the road to shed water. During the fall grade, we tend to take some of the crown off the centre of the road. Many of our gravel roads are slightly narrower, and when the snow ploughs run down them, they run centre line or fairly close to centre line, and so a high crown in the early part of the winter results in the plough either leaving snow to one side or shaving some of the crown off. So we tend to change the shape of the gravel road slightly as we come into the fall season, late fall season, lowering some of that crown off some of the narrow roads to avoid plough damage being done during the winter season. But we take on board the points. We certainly have had a reasonably good winter. We got frost in the ground and it hung on. We're fighting a slightly challenging spring as it comes and goes. But yeah, as I say, both graders are ready, and we've had both graders out. There will be maintenance gravel arriving as soon as conditions allow for it. Thank you for the words of support for the team.
And if I may, just one more thing, I think as the team builds and they stay and you get more experienced operators, they become very, very proud of the work they do, and they want to see it, and they don't want to see the same complaints we see, right? So, building that team, giving them the experience they need, and giving them the support they need, right?
Seeing no other comments, I have a question. Is there something that council can do? Because one of the things I've seen in the years I've been on council, and I've seen other municipalities do, is that level of the amount of gravel that's allowed each year and that type of thing changes with each different council. And I often think that if we had a set guideline to give to staff that was written into a policy that council had to vote on to change and justify why they changed, it would give a continuity for staff to follow. So is there something council can do that would support staff in being able to keep those roads maintained?
So to you, Mayor Carlton, I think there's a couple of things I think council can do to provide that support. So I'm going to reflect briefly back on something Councillor Winter said in this first part of his discussion. Our gravel road practices have suffered from some lack of stability. As we've seen operators shift, as we've seen management shift, different people bring different ways of doing things. And I suspect each one of those ways is the right way at the time. But what you really need with gravel is a bit of consistency. And so one of the things that we have perhaps lacked in the past has been that consistency. We've also identified, and council has supported, putting more money into gravel. And so I think one of the things as we come through budget cycle each year, making sure that the staff are keeping the pencil sharp when it comes to gravel, looking for best value, looking to make sure that we keep the balance in there. The budget that has been set up and approved by council at this point is a budget which would allow for roughly us to put gravel down, maintenance gravel down on all roads on an average of 3-year cycle. That doesn't mean that all roads are going to get it every 3 years. We will apply the gravel where it's needed. And certainly while we're bringing that program back up to speed, some roads may require maintenance gravel slightly more frequently, while others have got the depth of gravel that we can continue to work with. And so, you can't simply put down inches and inches and inches of gravel because it will just simply move into the ditches. So we want to build the surface back up in some of those roads. So it will take some time for that program to build in. The other thing we're doing this year is we have a retriever that we're going to be renting for a period of time to bring back some of the side gravel that can be reused from the outsides and help with the shaping. So we're going to be doing a bit of that this year. So I think in terms of supporting staff to make sure we keep our eyes on the program, is really every time we come back to budget, just making sure that we've kept a good proportion in there for our gravel budget. The second way in which I think council can lend some valuable support into this is we brought to you an asset management plan. The asset management plan talks about how we want to fund, maintain, look after roads, both in terms of the capital contribution, but also in terms of the operating costs and operating practices that go onto those roads. And that will be coming back before council in respect to setting service levels. And so there's a very good opportunity for council to look to set alternative service levels. If you wanted us to progress from maybe a once in a 3-year pattern to doing, maybe you want us to see us do more gravel for the next few years, and then ease back a little bit later on, we can certainly have those conversations as we get into the service level conversations, which I think are June this year. June this year, I think we're bringing those back. So there's lots of opportunity for us to have good conversation around gravel, but certainly we've received your support over the last year or so, and the team are putting that into practice this year after a revision to the grading practices last year. I should also note we've got a handful more staff that are keen to get their hands on the grader, and so we're hoping to diversify that pool, get some training done on some of the staff, so that we've got a bigger pool of operators that are able to operate the graders. And as Councillor Winter says, we've been afforded a great deal of luxury in some of the operators we have, in that the amount of pride they take in doing the work. So this year, before we had the benefit of Zion Church Road being closed, and so this year, before they even hit any of the roads that people were travelling on, I know our operators had been out on Zion to practice, to make sure that they had the equipment set up right, and they were comfortable with the equipment before they hit the roads, so they were able to travel. And so we had the benefit of a closed road to do a bit of practice on. It was in pretty poor condition anyway, and so we had half a day of practice before we hit the roads, and were able to get out and about over the last week or so.
Thank you. And I think that's helpful for the residents as well to know that there's more emphasis being put on that program. So hopefully in the next year, 2 years, we get ahead of it. Councillor Winters?
Just one more thought if I can, and it came up with the retriever. Excellent idea, right? Reclaim that gravel that's on the side, reshape the sides of the roads, positive drainage. But I think there's an education component that needs to go along with that. Because the day after you drive down the road with a retriever, it looks like a war zone. And I think the public needs to be aware of what's going to happen, what the process is, of how there'll be multiple gradings done in a short period of time to recoup that. But it will be the start of the brushing program all over again when they come home and what happened. I went to work and the road doesn't look great. It is a short-lived process for short-term pain for long-term gain, right? But I think there has to be an education component to that.
Excellent. Great comments. So we don't have a motion on that one. I think that was just for discussion. Does any member of council have or wish to provide a notice of motion or a notice of discussion? Seeing none, we have no closed session. Our confirming bylaw, the recommendation is that bylaw 2025-027, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council on April 16th, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor Schuldeis, There's no discussion. I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Adjournment. Date of next meeting will be Committee of the Whole, April 23rd at 5 p.m. Recommendation is that the meeting be adjourned at 5:50 p.m. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor Shouldice, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good evening.
We might